Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. So, it took the media operators and their bosses, as someone used to call them the media bosses, and his name was Dr. William. It took them 3 years and 3 months to call it the way it is, or get close to call the war in Ukraine the way it is, and starting accepting reality. That is, not promoting the narrative that actually made this war continue for 3 years and a half almost. Why is that? Because someone is losing something somewhere. Who are those people who might be losing? The profiteers, not the politician, not the carnage in Ukraine. These guys don't care about that one. They care about their interest, narrow interest, which is financial interest. So what do we have here? The Russians, not only the Russians have been saying this for a long time, 3, 4, 5 years. You cannot beat us in a battlefield. You have to talk to us as equal. You cannot just tell us what to do and expect us to go over there and do it because we're afraid of your sanctions or who knows what. The Russians told these guys in the West, back off, stay away, don't come close to our borders with NATO. Everything was ignored. They didn't care. And now they pay the price. And you know who pays the price? The Ukrainians. Mainly the Ukrainians, the real Ukrainians. I'm not talking about Zelensky Stein and Yermak and Zmihal Stein. So what do we have here? I have 3 articles. And one is from Sputnik, another one is from Russia Today, and the third one is from Associated Press, where the media is allows itself to tell us, hey, we can't beat the Russians. These are the Russians' conditions. They will not negotiate on our terms. Why would they? And this is the plan. What do we do? Including the fact that they recognize that Russia will fight till the end. And these are the terms. We will fulfill our non-negotiable goals. That's why we entered in Ukraine, and they start acknowledging it. So let's start with the first article. And this comes from Sputnik. And it is from yesterday, the 31st of May 2025. Russia ready to continue, escalate military operation in Ukraine, and I'm quoting, for as long as it takes. So ready not only to continue what the conventional war, but to probably escalate it to a nuclear war. The Russians have been saying this. Media here choose to ignore it, give us a different narrative. And now the Russians continue to say, you know what, guys? We will not stop. We will continue and we will escalate. You escalate, we will escalate. That's something that was consistent with the Russians for 3 years and 3 months. You bring over there howitzers, that's an escalation. We're going to adapt. You got Finland in NATO and Sweden, we're going to adapt. That's going to have consequences. And guess what? These guys then portrayed the how should I put it, the reaction as being the action. Oh, the Russians are doing this. But the Russians told you why they do that. If you do that, I'm going to escalate as well. If you get NATO in Finland and Sweden, we have to put nuclear arsenal pointed towards those 2 countries that were not aimed at before. We have to bring troops, we have to build bases all around it. Now, you did it, I did it. And you can say, well, actually that happened as a result of Russia invading. If you parrot the narrative, they enter NATO because, for example, they enter NATO because Russia invaded Ukraine, so they feel threatened. I mean, it could be a pattern. The Russians want to take over all Europe. Well, if we judge by that, United States of America has a bigger record of taking over the world than the Russians. Look in the past 30-some years, and you find out how many places they bombed and they brought democracy. So if you go by that pattern, the Americans are way ahead of the Russians. And I didn't hear the Europeans doing, oh my God, we're not going to do this with the NATO anymore because look what NATO did. That's one argument. And the other one, it's not so unjustified by the narrative is unjustified. By reality, go and listen and talk to the Russians and see what do they think about why they entered over there. You can't tell me it doesn't matter, because every time in a quarrel, in a fight, you ask both sides what happened, not only one side, and say, oh yeah, it was unjustified. We all know who was behind the unjustification. So, ready to fight for as long as it takes. So what are you going to do? You want to go nuclear with them? Some people might want that because they don't live in Europe. And they hope Europeans, again, fight with one another like imbeciles, and they come from outside with their investment, with their made-up money, and they will reconstruct with our sweat. All right, and our parents and our future generation in this case. Associated Press. Putin's tough stance on a Ukraine peace plan shows his resolve on Russia's demands. Well, he said it again. See, this is a veiled confirmation that the Russian invasion of Ukraine, according to the Russians, were not unjustified. Because they have justifications and they have a real case to put forth why they did it. And that's not because of the Ukrainians. Ukrainians were used. That's their fault. They were used and they were babooned by the, again, media operatives. So let's read what these guys are saying. By making harsh, uncompromising demands, these are the unconditional, unjustifiable reasons why they entered Ukraine in peace talks with Ukraine, while continuing to pummel it with waves of missiles and drones. Russian President Vladimir Putin is sending a clear message. He will only accept a settlement on his terms and will keep fighting until they're met. Wow! Didn't they say that before February 24, 2022? That's exactly what they said. Back off. Let's talk about security guarantees for us with your NATO enlargement and coming closer. You come to me. I didn't come to you. You come to me and now you are upset and I'm reacting. But it's unprovoked. You didn't provoke me whatsoever. If you think it was not a provocation, switch the sides and see how that looks like. So they told them, back off. If you don't back off, we're going to enter Ukraine because we want NATO not in Ukraine, our sphere of influence, as you have a sphere of influence. Secondly, you can't bring military over there, demilitarization of Ukraine. They have according to the Russians, denazification, a Nazi ideology. Look at Bandera's statues and street names and all that. You don't know who that is? Ask the Poles. And the Poles will definitely tell you, because they will have to have a cognitive dissonance at that point. Yeah, we love Ukraine, but then, oh, those guys are actually supporting the guys who killed about 200,000 Poles in Volyn and others. So they have to make up who you support, actually. The guys who support the Banderas? Now, personally, I don't care what country, they have internal beliefs and so on. But I have the right to say I like it or not. But they can say, well, I like those guys, but over there, yes, I don't like them over there. I like them. Okay, and then I support them. They killed maybe those Bandera and his gang, or whatever you want to call it, the nationalists they call them now, about 200,000 Poles during the Second World War. The Poles call it a massacre, a genocide. The other guys call it, well, you did it too. That's what they say. Anyway, so that's denazification. That's another one. The third one, you are killing our people, our ethnic Russians in East Ukraine. You overthrew, with the help of the foreign agencies, a legitimate government of Viktor Yanukovych in 2014. I mean, you impose sanctions on our media, you impose sanctions on our language, on our schools, on our culture in Ukraine. So all these things obviously make us say, you know what, we're going to enter. And what did you guys say? No, those are not reasons to do anything. Just sit down and die. That was the NATO, United States of America's advice then. So now they're all surprised that Putin is not willing to negotiate, or wants the negotiation, the peace terms on his term. Of course, as I always mention, according to some reports, Napoleon Bonaparte used to say, I'm a man of peace. I love peace. On my term, as long as the peace is done on my terms. Of course, the victor imposes the terms. Here is not equal. No, someone is losing. That's why the Americans are talking to the Russians. They're not talking to Russians as Trump baboons us, stop the carnage, yes, a lot of destruction, because if that would be the case, he would take the other fuckers by the balls in the Middle East about Gaza, but he doesn't. So that tells you what? Preferential outrage and compassion for fellow human beings from Donald Trump and the guys behind him. When he's gonna go and get the other guys by the balls, then I would say, yes, you are consistent with your preached values. Until then, no, you're a fuck up. I mean, you condemn a rape here, but you don't condemn a rape over there. Thank you very much. I don't trust you. So again, Putin is doing what he said he will, and he's going to achieve it. Would you do differently? You're winning, and then you accept the losers or the vanquished terms? Why would you do that? You tell me that unless you're a baboon, you would accept that situation. And let's go to the last article from Russia Today. And this is what the German foreign minister, who is also an infantile, is a little bit better than Annalena Baerbock, but I will explain. So this is from the 31st of May. Defeating Russia, impossible. Remember what Napoleon Bonaparte said about the word impossible? The word impossible, ce n'est pas français. It's not French. So the word impossible is not French. We don't have that word. Why? Everything is possible. Now, compare that with Mbappe, nowadays Macron and his baboons. All right? Anyway, his wife jumps on him. Fucking God. Anyway, so defeating Russia, impossible. So this was something that they should have known at least 3.5 years ago. The Ukraine conflict can only end at the negotiating table. And at the negotiating table, you're going to have a loser and a winner. Okay? And this guy, I made a video on him. You know who that guy is? Just so you know who's in charge of the policy in the Western world. First, look at Kaja Kallas, the foreign minister of the entire European Union, a woman who is an ignorant, according to my assessment of her statements. At the same level as Liz Truss from Great Britain, who was the foreign minister of Great Britain at one point, and prime minister for, I don't know, 60 days or something. And then you had Annalena Baerbock, the former foreign minister of Germany, another infantile. Now, these guys are going to talk to Lavrov. And these guys right here, that I say, what's his name? Johann Wadephul. This guy was tricked, fooled by two guys. Remember those guys, Volin and Mercedes and Lexus, whatever their names are? They're two Russian pranksters who pretended over the phone with the future. This guy did not come from the kindergarten when he was appointed as a foreign minister. So this is not like 3 years old or something, just got him off the kindergarten and can fool him. So he had positions, and I don't know what kind of positions, but you know what I mean. So he was not a baboon, and these two guys fooled him over the phone, telling him that we are some of Zelensky's aides or work for Zelensky, can you give us some information? And the baboon gave them information about Taurus missiles and things that are not spoken in public because we're not supposed to know the truth. Why? We can't handle the truth, okay? They protect us like mommy and daddy. They fooled these guys over the phone. So this guy was fooled by two pranksters, and he is now the foreign minister. Would you accept? Let's say your dad is this guy, or my dad. I would say, you're a fuck up, man. How can you get fooled up by those guys over the phone? If someone calls you right now and say, hey, Mike, I work for, I don't know, blah, 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 Deutsche Bank. I would like to know your bank account or something or whatever I want from you because I have to do, I'll give you about $2 million. Okay, I'll give it to you. Click, 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 click. Is that what you're going to do over the phone? Give all the information because someone told you from the other side, ich bin für aus Deutsche Bank. Guten Abend. Is that what it's going to be? That's what that guy said. Said certain things that were not supposed to be said. And he is the foreign minister. That means he's the top. The word is diplomat. That means he has diplomacy. That guy. So that tells you how democracy works in reality nowadays in the Western world. You have baboons elected and baboons appointed. And you expect what? To beat the Russians? Niet. Thank you very much for being with me again today. So these guys allowed themselves to give us, or to give the baboons, because we already knew, give the baboons a little bit from reality. And if the Russians tomorrow lose, they will hide it again. Remember, the Americans or NATO and these guys do not come to talk to Putin because Putin is losing or because they have compassion after 3 years and a half. Remember when they said we want to fight till the end? These were their words now that the Russians are using. For as long as it takes. The French, the Brits, the Germans, the baboons they all said it. We're going to fight Russia, we're going to support Ukraine for as long as it takes. Canadians and all these guys. And now the Russians say, we're going to fight for as long as it takes. And we have about 7,400 nuclear missiles. So, cling, cling, hint. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth and be just.